Hey, I'm Nucleus. Today I'm going to be teaching how to spam. This is something I've been asked quite frequently. How do you spam? How do you get better? How do you gain consistency? How do you different perfect spam? You know, all those sorts of questions. And I've been frequently asked, can you make a spam tutorial? Now the thing is, I do have a really old spam tutorial, but to be honest, it was really low effort. It was really shitty. So I'm back here again, and I'm going to make a newer one because I've also had a few people ask me, can you make a newer, better, updated one? So here I am. I stopped being lazy and I finally decided to make another spam tutorial. So today I'm going to teach you both straight and upward spam on 60 FPS. Keep in mind there's going to be a lot of information in the video. Before we get into it, there's a few things I need to address that you need to understand. Firstly, it's not going to be quick. Learning spam can take several weeks, and actually getting to a high level of skill can take over a year. You will also need to understand how frame perfects work and how the physics of spam functions. Don't worry though, a section of the video will be dedicated to this. Do not skip that part of the video if you know how to work still. It's a crucial part of the tutorial. This will teach you how to alt spam, which is spam with two hands, where you need to switch for every click. You might need the CPS train. If you aren't fast enough, you're going to need to dedicate some time to getting faster. Lastly, if you have any questions, shoot me a DM on Discord, as I'll be able to help there far more than if I just made a video, you know. So I'm always offering help in DMs because it's a lot more personal and interactive, and it's just easier in general. My tag is 900 BPM. If it changes, which honestly I get my accounts deleted pretty often, so chances are it will change way later, I will put it in the description. I will change it. Now we need to understand your capability. The first section of this video is simply to understand your potential to spam and what you need to focus on. It's likely you're going to need to pause a lot. First, I need to check how fast you can consistently click on one finger. And by consistently, I just mean keeping the same CPS. Your wave does not need to be consistent, I don't care about that. I just needed to check, what CPS can you consistently keep? Do not jitter click. Please, I fucking hate it. Don't jitter. Do not jitter. Only normal click like what's shown on the screen. To check this, open the level Nucleus Spam Trainer on GD. There's a CPS counter inside the level. First, I want you to test your right hand. Whatever finger you prefer, I really don't care. I personally use middle finger. I find it more precise, I find it more consistent and more comfortable. It's less awkward than index. But if you use index, thumb, whatever, I really don't care. I wouldn't suggest thumb though. So if your index, fine. Thumb, I suggest using pointer or middle. But me personally, middle's my favorite. After you have that though, I need you to also try your left hand. Again, whichever finger you prefer. If you get less than 7 CPS on either hand, right or left or both even, you will need a CPS train. You can't manage with that. If one hand clicks slower than the other by a significant amount, say 2 or more CPS in difference, you might need a CPS train. It depends. It's only if it's low. So let's say you have 10 CPS for some reason on one and 8 on the other. You're perfectly fine. I mean, you probably still want a CPS train if you want to do faster spam, but it really doesn't matter that much in that case. In order to spam consistently, properly though, both hands need to be able to do the same speed. If both hands can achieve at least 7 CPS, you're fine. So again, if you have that on balance, but one's like 10 or something crazy, it doesn't really matter. You just need a 7 CPS minimum. If you need CPS training, keep watching. If you don't, then just skip to the timestamps from the screen. I'm going to explain physics in that section. Anyway, we're gonna go on training your CPS, assuming you need it now, since you're continuing to watch, as I just fucking said. To train your CPS, really, there's not much you can do besides just pure brute force and conditioning. It's kind of like working out. You just have to practice and keep pushing yourself until you can easily do it. There's no just straight textbook way to just get stronger immediately. It's kind of just push yourself. It's the same thing with CPS. There's no just straight method to clicking fast. You kind of just need to push yourself until you can easily do it, just like exercise. All I can really do is suggest levels to practice with and maybe give a few tips, but that's really all I can do, so that's what I'm going to do. A few levels I would suggest for CPS training are the diamond blade ending. Try that with one hand. Do not alternate. The ending is around 10.5 CPS. You really don't need to be that fast to do 15 CPS spam at all. But it does help to be able to achieve that high of a CPS, at least for a little bit. Just that way, 7 CPS being a lot slower is a lot easier to do. Secondly, I would suggest Bimbo X for sure. You don't have to beat it. Just try to get as far as possible. You probably won't beat it, honestly. But try it with either hand, both hands individually. Bimbo X is 7.5 CPS, which is the perfect CPS for one hand for 60 FPS spam. Keep in mind this challenge is only for 60 FPS. Don't try it on like 120, please don't. The last level I suggest is SL one side. This is the one hand click pattern for Spam Legend, so this is literally perfect for this scenario. I highly recommend this one, and it's also 7.5 CPS. Regarding CPS training, that's pretty much all I have to say. Alright, by this point I assume your CPS is fine, and you can perform the same CPS on both hands. So now we're going to delve into the physics of spam. First I'll explain what a frame perfect is and how it functions. A frame perfect is an input, whether that be a click or release. Releases count too, where you only have one frame to perform that action. If you perform the input one frame too early or one frame too late, you'll die. On 60 FPS, one frame is 16.6 repeating milliseconds. This means on 60 FPS, you only have a 16 millisecond window approximately to perform a timing if it is a frame perfect. Now knowing this, let's talk about how spam on 60 FPS works and the physics of it and how that relates to frame perfect. First, I'm going to talk about straight spam. For the physics of upward spam, if you just need that, skip to the timestamps from the screen. I'll have both of these in different sections. Alright, so straight spam. Straight spam usually functions at 15 CPS precisely, or 900 BPM. You can do 30 CPS straight spam on 60 FPS, but it's seemingly impossible to do without illegitimate methods. Anyway, we'll be diving into the physics of 15 CPS spam, not 30. So on 60 FPS, you obviously have 60 frames every second. Assuming you're spamming perfectly at 15 CPS, that means you click on 15 out of 60 total frames. 60 divided by 15 is 4, meaning the gap between every click should be 4 frames, assuming you're perfectly even. This can be backed up by frame stepper. You click and hold for 2 frames, and have 2 release frames. While you could argue you have a 2-frame window, doing it any other way is generally impossible, so the spam is considered frame perfect due to it being necessary to perform it this way. You end up on the same Y level every time, therefore you're clicking at the perfect frames, at the perfect interval. This is what makes 60 FPS spams frame perfect. Do keep in mind your holds and releases must be perfectly even and equal for this type of spam, as every input lasts 2 frames. Now we'll delve into the physics of upward spam. The physics of upward spam on 60 FPS are different and make upward spam harder and more complex to learn and pull off in general. Upward spam, unlike straight spam, cannot be performed in any other manner. There are 0 available frames that won't kill besides the ones required. There is no spamming faster in upward spam. Upward spam also has a frame perfect entry, unlike usual straight spam. This is called a transition. Straight spam sometimes has these. I'll explain it more in depth later. The upward spam pattern requires the same CPS as straight spam, 15 CPS, and by that logic obviously requires the same amount of frames between clicks by default. Despite these two things in common, the frames for each release and hold are different. For upward spam, you must hold 3 frames for every click and only release for 1. This makes upward spam much more complex, as your holds and releases are unequal, yet still need to be perfect every time. This also means with upward spam, there's a lot more to pay attention to while spamming. I will explain this later. Now that we've covered the physics of both upwards and straight spam, it's time to actually put it into practice and learn how to do it, and find methods that will help you improve. So with this, we're going to learn how to alt. We'll start this by learning the basic alternation you'll need for spam. Open an empty spam training level, such as Nucleus Spam Trainer. Now tap with one hand and switch to the other for the next click. Start out slow, and whenever you get the hang of it, go a bit faster. Do this until you reach about 15 clicks per second. This is the basic requirement for learning how to spam properly, being able to, at minimum, reach just about the speed needed for the spams. Now that you hopefully both have the speed and the alternation method down, all you need to learn is just how to become consistent. Learning consistency will take a while, but it's alright, patience is key here. In this section I'll discuss ways to improve your consistency. First of all, use a metronome. Using a metronome can help your consistency a lot, since you know exactly what tempo you should be tapping at. Use a 900 BPM metronome. This is the exact beat as frame perfect spam. This is because you're doing 15 clicks every second, and 15 multiplied by 60, the amount of seconds in a minute, is 900 beats per minute. This metronome should align to your spam. I started doing this about 3 years ago, and then stopped when I had the skill required, and it taught me a ton, just learning how to spam using a metronome. The second way is to make a short frame perfect spam challenge that you can reasonably complete. This can be as short as you want, whether it be 1 block or 5, anything works. Once you beat it a few times, extend it by a block. Every time you beat it, add another block. This is a good way to gradually improve your consistency. This works best at 4 times speed since the blocks go by faster, and each block is very gradually improving, in contrast to like slow speed. 1 block lasts a lot longer, obviously. In order to also improve, I've created 2 ladders in the game that increase in difficulty with each level. There's a straight spam and upward spam one, both are 10 levels each. The IDs will be shown on the screen. As I said earlier, we need to discuss paying attention during upward spam. While upward spamming, there's something very important you should pay attention to. Despite how odd it sounds, your main focus should be where you're dying, not your spam or whatever. I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking, should I be paying attention to the tempo or speed? No, you really shouldn't. Thing is, when you die, It gives you plenty of info on what you're doing wrong and how you can improve it. This is mainly for upward spam. It's a lot less noticeable in straight spam. If you're feeling consistent, you really don't need to pay attention to your deaths, but if you're doing bad, paying attention to where you die can help you increase consistency and fix errors very quickly. A death to the top with the right click pattern shows that you're holding for too long and need to hold for less. A death to the bottom with the right click pattern also shows that you aren't tapping fast enough. A death to the bottom with the wrong click pattern is an early release, which means you need to hold for longer. This can also mean you're tapping too fast. Paying attention to these errors and learning what they mean, and then correcting them can do you wonders. Now I need to talk about transitions. This part I forgot to write in the script, so I'm probably going to sound really stupid and ramble right now, but basically transitions are entrances for spams. This is what they're generally called in the spam community. So for straight spam, a transition normally would be like SoundCloud or the longest one. You go up and you enter the spam. These are generally hard to learn, and I wouldn't suggest doing challenges with them until you're more advanced, since they take a lot more skill. And I wouldn't recommend practicing them much until you're actually at a higher level of skill. This is only for straight spam though. Upward spam transitions are just the entrance to the spam. Now, the entrance to the spam is always going to be frame perfect, just like the rest of the clicks. So it's really good to practice the first click a lot, since that's a pretty decent check of difficulty, since every time you're entering the spam, you're doing a frame perfect. Now the thing with spam frame perfects is that because it's so fast, you don't need to focus on the actual timings themselves. Well, the first click is an actual timing in itself, so it's really good to practice this.